more than just white out there. We have a world where we have diversitized cultures, and I think that was like, to me, I feel like that was like the opening door for bringing in like different Marvel characters are different from different sets, which I wish we could dive on a lot of this stuff, and that's why I wanted to pick it. I feel it's a very important movie to speak about, especially on Black History Month, especially with the current climate, especially with some people shaming other people because of the color of their skin. And like I was just telling the model that I was just shooting, as much as I think brown is beautiful, just like black is beautiful, just like white is beautiful, just like, yellow, polka dot, everything is beautiful to the beholder, and it's just like, you shouldn't be hating the color of your skin, your eyes, your weight or whatever. That should never be a part of like why you dislike somebody. We might dislike somebody because they're a dick, but that's admirable. I would hate somebody that's a fucking dick. But again, I'm going off the subject. But yeah, that's what I wanted to pick this thing, because I feel it was a culture win for everyone involved, But what did you guys think of this movie? I know we haven't talked about it in the show that much, but I want to hear your opinions on this movie.
Well, it's funny, before we started recording, I was talking to Wes a little bit about it, but I didn't want to get too much into it. Me personally, I feel like this movie gets better and better every time I watch it. I've probably seen it about, I'd probably say like 5 or 6 times now. This is one of Jordan's favorite movies to watch in the Marvel universe. And I just think it was really cool for the way they set it up. How they kind of, Wakanda is supposed to be this city that is technologically advanced in every way, and they still have like they're still true to their roots in their architecture in their city, which is like traditional buildings or like, I'd say the way they would construct like a hut, but made it into like the size of a giant building. But there's still electricity running through it and all that stuff. So it was really cool for them to kind of mix those things of like still staying with tradition, but also being super technologically advanced for their time. And then also, like you were saying, how like you were saying, this kind of transcends just a superhero movie. This is, for a lot of people who don't know, like, or don't want to know, there's not very many black superheroes for young black kids to look up to. And for them to finally get this was a really cool, a really awesome thing for them to see, because, they're represented in a predominantly white, a character base. A majority of the characters, superheroes in general, are white for whatever reason. I mean, they all started, back in the early 50s, 60s. So I mean, that's probably a big reason. And until you get closer and closer to present time, where you start seeing more of these, even Latino superheroes or black superheroes. But I think it's really cool for someone to be like, I want to be like Black Panther. You even have like white kids saying that, which is awesome. Yeah. Which, it's for like, it's really, he's not just a superhero, for a role model for like a little black kid to look up to. He's a superhero for anyone. Doesn't have to be. That's what's so great about superhero movies. Their race isn't really superheroes. There's not. I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. Is like, it's for everybody. It's all inclusive. There's no excluding anybody. But I think this was a huge leap forward in that world for them to do that. And Marvel, kudos for Marvel to do that. And you can say, well, they had Blade, or but Blade wasn't really. I mean, to me, like Blade wasn't really like a superhero in the same way that Black Panther is. But Black Panther's so much more relevant, and like you said, so much more relevant with the times. And I think that's such a cool thing. And this cast is amazing. There's Michael B. Jordan in it. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that you're right. That I love what you said right now. Superheroes are not just just for one race, or you don't have to be this particular thing. I love that, because it is true. A lot of my friends, to learn English, they would read comic books.
Yeah, I do know that's a big thing. I know a lot of people who don't understand or can't. English isn't their first language. I know they turn to those types of medias like comic books or things like that to help them and get them going on that learning curve. But I think this is it's an interesting movie, because I remember there was so much hype for this movie, and it was so crazy. I want to say when I first talked about this movie, even on the show like years ago when I just mentioned it, I think I might have wrecked it. But for me, when I saw it in theaters, I felt like it was overhyped, if that makes sense. But then rewatching it, like I'm saying, rewatching it and rewatching it and rewatching it, I'm like, man, this movie, like I was saying, this movie gets better and better every single time. Now, I loved the movie when I saw it in theaters. I just was like, oh man, I thought this was going to be like, I don't know what I thought it was going to be, but there was so much hype built around it that I felt like the standards were set super high. But I love this movie. This movie is probably I wouldn't say it's like my favorite, but I could, like I said, I've watched this movie 6-7 times almost. I could watch it 20 more times and not get tired of it, because it's so interesting, and just the how they dive into the culture and everything. I think it's just so awesome to watch this, and how they mix it in with like being a superhero. And I love how in the beginning of the movie there's that story of the comet that's full of vibranium, and it kind of transforms the world, and then how all the tribes try to take over that land, and then it takes the Black Panther to unite them, that one person, to unite all those tribes. So I think that's really cool. What did you think about this one, Wes?
Oh man, there's so many layers to it. I definitely think it's revolutionary in even in just the cast that they got. You know what I mean? Where you got Michael B. Jordan with Angela Bassett. You know what I mean? It's insane that
right.
The longevity that they were able to pull off with this kind of cast, and they all do some, even though some people have more screen time than others, I feel like they all get their time to bring something to the table, and it's so fascinating to see within the MCU really get to see Wakanda and what it's all about, and Coogler, more importantly, Coogler's vision of Wakanda, you know what I mean? And it's beautifully realized. Everything, the set design, the costume design in this, it's super engaging, and like Anaris or Tiny was saying last week, that there's something very warm about this film when you watch it, you know what I mean? Because it's unfortunately something that's kind of a rare occasion, and I think that's why it was so had so much of an impact on pop culture, rightfully so, you know what I mean? I'm glad people went to or overly supported it, hyped it up so much. I do agree with James saying that like it gets better with every watch. I think this last time that I screened it for so we could talk about it for the show is probably my favorite time seeing it. I had so much fun, and I picked up on so much of the little things, little jokes and little audio synchronies that you can miss when you're trying to gather what's happening in a story, but when you know how it's going to play out, you have all this extra time to kind of digest and kind of overanalyze the content. So it was very fun to look at it under a different kind of lens, and it's a beautiful, near perfect film. The only, like I said in my intro, I think the only thing that we could all agree on is some of the CGI, mainly with the fighting. You can kind of see that it's not real. They're kind of guilty, like in the way that what's his name, Raimi did with the first Spider-Man trilogy when he's kind of web slinging or the fights and stuff that you can see that that's CGI, and they kind of reminded me of that. But it's also like, well, those films were a long time ago, and this one was
this was the more modern one.
Yeah, 2018, and it's looking like Sam Raimi's fighting sequences. So, but yeah, that's a small, very very small clip of mine, and those fight scenes, where you can notice it heavily, it's just what feels like a few seconds anyway. As far as, because this film is super long, and I feel like most of it's pretty solid. There's not much you can really talk bad about, which is great.
There's a scene I wanted to mention. It's right after T'Challa or Black Panther gets, they think he gets killed by Killmonger, and Killmonger takes he drinks the heart of the flower, and he gets his powers, and he has his little vision and stuff, and then he has them burn all of the flowers so there could never be another Black Panther again, because he wants to be the only one to have that special power. And then as he's finally getting he's walking into the throne room with everyone, like the elders basically around him. When he walks into that room, the way you're seeing it, the camera's kind of like flipped upside down, and it's slowly spinning to where it becomes right side up as he sits down on the throne. To me, that was such a cool visual of like their world is kind of being like thrown upside down, or like destroyed kind of. But I thought that was such a cool visual for them for Ryan Coogler to do that. And I hope that's what he was trying to show in that visual, but that's what I took from it. I thought that was really, really interesting, and such a cool way of cinematography to show that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if you remember that, but I thought that was a really cool scene that I thought was interesting.
Since we're bringing up Killmonger, I loved in this that they use Claw, or Andy Serkis's character, as this kind of red herring where you're like, oh, this is like one of the only white dudes in the film, and he's the villain. This is crazy, And then he's kind of just a pawn in Killmonger's game, and you don't even realize they don't even really bring Eric Killmonger out until like almost like halfway through the movie. Like, he makes appearances and stuff, but he doesn't really make his big move until about halfway through. And I loved
when he kills him. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I love you, but what were you saying when you love what was?
Just that they were able to pull that off, that kind of twist that you don't even really see coming. That there's something off about Killmonger, and you're like, why is he kind of betraying Wakanda? But you have no idea that he's has built, created like this whole